Jeff Hoffman has signed with the Toronto Blue Jays. We're going to break it down right here on Locked On Blue Jays.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. We are here on a Friday night for a live episode because Ross Atkins has awakened. He has made a signing, and it is a big signing. Jeff Hoffman has signed a 3-year contract with the Toronto Blue Jays, $33 million per year. Obviously that, or $33 in total. Obviously that is $11 million per year. Jeff Hoffman, 32 years old, 68 appearances last year with the Phillies, a 2.17 ERA, a .96 whip, 89 strikeouts over those 66.1 innings, had 10 saves. This is exactly what the Toronto Blue Jays need. This is a major signing, exactly what they wanted. We looked at the bullpen last year. We watched the entirety of the season. The bullpen was one of the biggest problems with the Toronto Blue Jays. You had Jordan Romano, who obviously had some injury concerns, didn't really play the whole season. Yimi Garcia took over, was really good at the start of the season, but again, had some injuries, and you can't just rely on Yimi Garcia to be in those safe situations. And it was Chad Green. Once Yimi Garcia got traded, now you got Jeff Hoffman, who there's talks of him turning into a starting pitcher. We'll have to see how that transpires. Obviously, the Jays do need some starting pitching depth as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use a guy like Jeff Hoffman. Again, live stream, Ross Atkins has awakened. It's about time, honestly. A lot of people should be very happy about this signing. And hopefully this gets something going here. Hopefully we can get on a little bit of a generational run and just have a continued signings for the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, looking at the bullpen, we'll break this down here. Obviously, Jordan Romano not being the closer anymore. Jeff Hoffman, right now, for me, prime candidate to be that closing starting pitcher. But even if he is not, you have Yimi Garcia, you have Chad Green, you have Eric Swanson at the top of that bullpen, you have Nick Sandlin. This bullpen, I mean, there was a lot of hate going into the season for the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen. Now, looking at it right now, I mean, you can't really complain too much. I don't know if they're going to make any other moves from now on with this bullpen. And if it is, it's probably one of those minor league deals with invites to spring training. But right now, if you have the 7th inning or later and you go Yimi Garcia, Chad Green, and then Jeff Hoffman, I mean, that is going to be something that I am extremely excited about. If you guys have any reactions, any comments in the comment section here, just looking for fan reactions. How are you guys feeling about this signing? We needed something. We finally got it. We're still looking for a power bat. Still need a Santander. Still need even a Jason Hayward for me at this point. Obviously not the top option, but Alex Bregman. Any guys like that would definitely be much appreciated on this staff. Now, obviously, we're looking at Vladimir Guerrero Jr., want him to be re-signed for this before this season does start. Said at the start of spring training, it's not a possibility anymore. It's going to focus on that season, and then the Blue Jays would have to default over to the 2026 offseason to get a deal done like that. So crazy signing on Friday night. I mean, not exactly expected on a Friday night, but I'm not going to complain whatsoever when you have a move like this from Ross Atkins. Again, leave your comments, anything like that for you guys. If you do have some reactions, how you feel about Jeff Hoffman. Will he be the closing pitcher on this team? Can you maybe see him turning into a starting pitcher as well? With Yariel Rodriguez, I think if somehow Jeff Hoffman would be that pitcher, I think Yariel Rodriguez is the favorite to be the 5th starter in this rotation right now. But it's going to be interesting to see how this transpires. But you got that $33 million contract. I think if Jeff Hoffman wanted to be a starting pitcher and wanted to end up going over to that, I think it would. I think what would happen is you'd be leaning Yariel Rodriguez with the work he had last year, the innings pitched, just how stretched out he was. I think that is the direction that we would be going here. I'm just going to send Braden an invite here. You should be able to get him on as well. Yeah, absolutely love to see it. This bullpen, I don't think it's necessarily a problem anymore. I'm confident in guys like Brendan Little. Again, like we said at the start of this offseason, if he can be a lower leverage reliever for this guy, a guy from the left side, that is going to be huge for this bullpen. A massive piece for Brendan Little. Then you had Nick Sandlin, who we talked about last podcast, who, again, a little bit underrated. Not when you look at that Honduras Jimenez trade, obviously that is the major piece, but Nick Sandlin, strikeout rate of about 27%, whiff rate of 32% last season. So the strikeout numbers are there. This could be an intriguing guy if he can take that next step. maybe get the command a little bit under control. And maybe if you need a guy for a strikeout situation, that might be Nick Sandlin, then Eric Swanson. If you guys have been listening to the podcast, you know I am high on a guy like Eric Swanson. So like bullpen wise, I think we're good. I think we're absolutely chilling right now in terms of the bullpen. So now with Ross Atkins, you got to turn your attention to the starting pitching, and majority of the attention should be on that power bat that we still desperately need. Jeff Hoffman will help this team, obviously, in the long run, in the short term as well. But it's honestly, for me, if it kind of all goes for naught, if you don't make that big signing, you don't go out and get that Santander, that Pete Alonso, that Alex Bregman, that Jason Hayward at this point. Literally anyone. Again, you obviously want Santander, those big three more than some other guys. So it's going to, with this signing, like $11 million per year, doesn't necessarily break the bank, doesn't take that possibility out of going out and getting that big player. But with Ross Atkins, we want to, like, what we've seen is that they've stayed under the luxury tax. And as I said on the last episode, it was their projected salary total before the Jeff Hoffman signing was about $195.5 million. You add the Jeff Hoffman contract to that, you get $206.5 million. So with the Santander talks, it's kind of ranging from 20 to 25 million. Some even saying that it might go over to that 25 million. The Toronto Blue Jays' first offer was a 4-year, $82 million contract. And now it is rumored that they have put in another offer for Santander. So it's hopefully Ross Atkins can continue to build some momentum from this signing. Hopefully this Jeff Hoffman signing might be another reason why some other players might want to come here, because they reestablished the bullpen. They've revamped the bullpen. And hopefully we can get a Santander and one of those guys to really help this team and protect Vladdy in this lineup. Just going to look at some fan reactions here on Twitter from this Jeff Hoffman signing. Again, appreciate you guys obviously stopping in for this Friday live stream. Yeah, any fan reactions, any comments that you guys have just about Jeff Hoffman, it's going to be very nice. And I'm going to pull up his stats here as well, so we can kind of just dive into this guy and really break it down. And it looks like Braden is close here to being able to join. I'm going to fire a text over to him. Of course, again, this happens when Braden is driving. He's going to be in his car, so hopefully the audio is not too bad. Luckily, I was at the house, kind of just, waiting, sitting for a Ross Atkins signing, and we did end up getting one. Okay, I'm going to jump over to this baseball savant here. We'll look at what Jeff Hoffman really has to offer. Obviously, just from the name value, you saw what he did with the Philadelphia Phillies last season. You saw how good that bullpen was as well. So definitely nice to see, again, the revamp of Jeff Hoffman. Right now, for me, especially, 2.17 ERA, absolutely ridiculous. I'm leaning towards this guy being the closer. I don't think that is a hot take whatsoever. It's very nice to see just how a little bit of confidence in a bullpen for the Toronto Blue Jays after just the monstrosity that they did have last season. Come on here. Laptop is being slow. If you guys didn't know, I've been having some laptop problems. I thought it was a new battery that my laptop just kept turning off randomly. To change the battery out, now it's kind of like a PC. You just have to keep this thing plugged in at all times. There we go. All right, not a bad deal. Certainly needed it from Eric Shepard. Absolutely. Definitely needed it. We've talked about the need for bullpen help. We've talked about the need from, especially from me, I've wanted a high leverage reliever this entire offseason. Nick Sandlin, not exactly that. When you got a guy like Jeff Hoffman, that is one of the best relievers on the market. It was Jeff Hoffman, Carlos Estevez, Tanner Scott. You had those type of names. So getting one of these big, you could say superstars for sure, for a guy like Jeff Hoffman landing in Toronto will definitely help this team in the long run. Can be a guy that goes for multiple innings as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what the plan is from John Schneider and how they do implement this guy into this bullpen. Does the fact that it's a 3-year deal tell you anything about what the management thinks of this team going forward? I don't think so. I'm not going to read into it too much in terms of that. I think obviously your cornerstones in the franchise, you're looking at Bo Bichette, you're looking at Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They get Santander on a multi-year deal. Maybe that holds a little bit more value for me. Reports have come out with Vladdy that we went over. Again, Hector Gomez. How much do you really believe this is kind of the problem here, that the Blue Jays have put in another offer and they're very close to getting what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wants in terms of a contract. So again, not going to be a negative thing. Definitely a positive stepping stone in a guy like Jeff Hoffman. But I think with the Toronto Blue Jays, what you're thinking here is you have one of the best relievers on the market. You have an unbelievable guy that can completely revamp your bullpen for years to come, whether you are competing, whether you're even in kind of in that middle ground, whether they plan to rebuild at the end of the season. Jeff Hoffman, definitely going to be a nice guy to have in your arsenal. But I'm not reading into that too much necessarily in terms of how the Toronto Blue Jays are going to plan for beyond 2025. I think what it comes down to is this season. If you're able to sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr. before the season, obviously in hindsight, the Jeff Hoffman contract does look really good as well. But if you're not able to sign Vladdy, you're not able to sign Bo. It depends how they play. Obviously, if you get Vladdy from last season, that contract is going to skyrocket. If you get a little bit of a down year from Vladdy, which I don't really think is going to happen, I don't think a lot of people have that in the cards for the Toronto Blue Jays and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So it's probably going to end up being a bidding war. Got one from another one here. Why are the Toronto Blue Jays signing so many players this week? Yeah, it seems like a lot, honestly. We got one. That's more than we've gotten for a very long time. So I'm definitely loving it. Calling it Santander signing within the next 24 hours. Like I said, let's go on a run here. Let's get all these guys. Let's get a Santander. Let's get a starting pitcher as well. Even if it's a lower term guy. I know they've been linked to Nick Pivetta. If they can get Nick Pivetta for like a 1 year, 2 year deal. It's not the greatest guy of all time. He loves giving up the long ball, loves giving up home runs. So in that sense, not exactly what you want. But when you look at the pitching depth on this team as of right now, you got your top five. Obviously, you got Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, Chris Bassett. You'll have Bowden Francis, who might be able to jump some of these guys who can continue the momentum from last season. Then you have Yariel Rodriguez, who struggled at times, did show you some flashes. But if you do have an injury there, especially early on in the season, right now you're looking at a guy like Jake Bloss probably as the next one up. You got maybe Adam Mako if he can come back, but not exactly the depth that you're looking for. So I do think they could use a veteran signing to kind of boost this team. Hoffman, great signing for sure. Chat, what is everyone up to Friday night? Yeah, Justin's obviously hammering the Jets game. I might have to have a beer now after this Jeff Hoffman signing, a little bit of a celebration. Good. Love the signing. Good to see moves being made. Exactly. Finally gotten a wake-up call from Ross Atkins. Great. Now get Trevor Bauer. We always see these Trevor Bauer comments. Just doesn't seem realistic whatsoever. If Trevor Bauer was going to come back to the MLB, I think it already would have happened by now. There's a ton of conspiracy theories saying that GMs have banded together trying to keep Trevor Bauer out of the league. Trevor Bauer is not known as the greatest team guy of all time, has a little bit of an ego on him, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's been seen throughout his teammates' experiences that not the greatest locker room guy. But it's a guy that is obviously the skill set is there. It's just whether you do want to take a risk on him or not. Probably would sign for a league minimum. Just don't necessarily see that being in the cards. Where is Braden? Yeah, good question. I guess you could say that one host of this podcast maybe cares a little bit more than the other one. Obviously, that's jokes. He's on the road right now. I have him actually in the StreamYard, but he hasn't texted me back if he's good to go. Okay, he does say he's here, so I am going to add him now, and we'll see the thoughts from Braden Nowasco. So Braden, obviously, you see the signing, 3 years, $33 million for Jeff Hoffman. And you got your windows open right now. It sounds like you're driving in a helicopter a little bit.
I am here trying to join. How did any better?
You sound like an absolute robot right now, unfortunately.
Okay, I will try to rejoin.
All right, perfect. I'll continue on with some of the comments here. I hope Sasaki rumors are true, though being third place is getting old for sure. What a game changer he could potentially be. If they get Roki Sasaki, man, I'm all in. I'll say it. I'm all in on the Toronto Blue Jays. Obviously, I won't. You got to get the power back at that point. If you can get Santander and you get Roki Sasaki, I'll rephrase that. Then I'm all in on the Toronto Blue Jays because you can have the best pitching in the world. We saw what happened last season again. Andres Jimenez looks like he could be a very good player especially in terms of WAR. Could be a 5-6 WAR player if he can kind of return to that 2022 form. Bo Bichette, we're high on Bo Bichette on this podcast. Obviously, looking for him to kind of get back to that 2022 form that he did have. And then obviously the Vladdy being Vladdy. You need hopefully a George Springer bounce back. Will Wagner looks like he could be a good guy as well for this baseball team. But Braden, try talking again. We'll see how you sound. Hopefully it's not too robotic this time around.
Yeah, hopefully I'm better. I'm passing
that. It's significantly better for sure.
Okay, yeah, passing Tyndall, Manitoba, for those of you who know, not the best service out there. But Carter, I'm on the road, heading out to a buddy's on a Friday night. Haven't seen him in a while. And of course, I swear Ross Atkins waits for me to not be at home to make signings happen. And this deal immediately came through my phone. I was actually like an idiot driving and tweeting and putting out the tweet that the Jays, of course, signed Hoffman. This is a fantastic deal, a deal that honestly I didn't expect to happen. I did not think the Toronto Blue Jays were going to make another bullpen move. I thought that was going to be it. We might get the Santander or another player signing, but that would be all she wrote. This is a great move. I think that there's no argument from anybody that this is a well-needed and well-made move by Ross Atkins and this Blue Jays organization. Now we'll have to wait and see what comes next, because I was sort of in here while you were talking and reading some comments off as well, saying, could the Santander one be in the works? And to be honest, this makes me think that, well, the arbitration deals are all done. They avoided all of those. Now maybe they realize, okay, we have money to spend, and now it might be coming. We said with the money left before the luxury tax, you probably had enough to make either a starting pitching move or a bullpen move, plus still get your Anthony Santander or your Alex Bregman. So to me personally, Carter, I think this is the first of possibly another move to come. And hopefully, we also see the Vladdy extension coming. I know we talked about that actually this morning on the episode for those of you who watched. Yeah, just an immaculate move. I'm absolutely in love with this move. I really, really did not expect this to happen. This was sort of out of left field for me. But yeah, I'm pretty ecstatic.
I mean, how can't you be? This guy's former All-Star, the last 2 years, 2.41 ERA, and then I believe there was the 2.17 ERA. You can't hate on it whatsoever. Like, I want to know what your opinion was. I don't know if you heard this part about the live stream here. It's like, where does he sit now in this bullpen? Is he the closing pitcher? Is he the setup man? Like, where do you have him in terms of this bullpen rotation?
Yeah, that's a great question, and something that obviously will have to be talked about. But I don't. For me, there's no question that he is the closer now. I really don't know. Like, who else? You have Yimmy, maybe Chad Green. No, this is your guy. You went out and made a move for him specifically to fill that role. Now that obviously Jordan Romano is gone, and to be honest with you, Carter, if you were asking me Hoffman or Romano, I don't know. Now I'm just sort of pleased with what we got. So I'm pretty. Yeah, I don't think there's a question here.
Yeah, I'm leaning Jeff Hoffman as well. Like, you're a big baseball savant guy, obviously. Just looking at this guy's baseball savant, expected ERA 91st percentile, expecting bat, like it's all red, which is you love to see. This guy's absolutely seeing red. Average fastball 96.7%, bringing a little bit of heat back to the Toronto Blue Jays, especially with losing Jordan Romano. Whip percentages off the charts, 35%. K percentages 33%, striking out a third of the batters he's facing. Not walking guys whatsoever at 6%. Ground ball pitcher, which you absolutely love to see as well. Seen times where these bullpen arms can get beat by the long ball. Not necessarily a problem with Jeff Hoffman. He is not the greatest ground ball pitcher. I read that wrong. 22nd percentile, only 37.6% of the time. That one's my bad there. But other than that, it doesn't matter if you're not a ground ball pitcher or you're not a ground ball pitcher if you're producing the numbers that Jeff Hoffman is producing. So hopefully, again, the momentum can start with this signing. 3 years, $33 million. That's not really breaking the bank whatsoever. I think if you would have looked at Jeff Hoffman going into this offseason, the market for relievers is pretty decent. There are a lot of good guys that you could go out and get, but Jeff Hoffman, $11 million per year for a guy that's going to be at the top end of your bullpen for the next 3 seasons is definitely something that Toronto Blue Jays fans can get excited about.
Yeah, Carter, and just to look back over sort of the Jordan Romano of it all, the $7.5 million that you would have paid him, are you looking at that and saying, wow, that really was too much money for Jordan Romano? Or are you saying that, maybe that is close to fair and what he deserves? Sort of, where do you stand on that one?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I was just reading the comments.
No, that's okay. When it comes to Jordan Romano's $7.5 million that he, obviously wanted.
Oh, comparing him to Jeff Hoffman, sort of thing. Like, where are we at with that?
So how does that contract lay out for you now when you're looking back at the $7.5?
Well, Jeff Hoffman provides you so much more certainty, obviously, than a guy like Jordan Romano coming off of that injury. I think that, again, we thought it played a lot into it. Ross Atkins saying that Jordan Romano was perfectly healthy. Again, when you have a pitcher that didn't pitch for the, honestly, almost the full season of 2024, you don't know what kind of Jordan Romano you're going to get back, especially when he was pitching in 2024. It wasn't necessarily the greatest performances that we did see. And a lot of Toronto Blue Jays fans were starting to kind of get the pitchforks up in the air and the torches out, saying that, oh, Jordan Romano is a fake closer. I know a lot of guys kind of close to us don't exactly love Jordan Romano and didn't hate that he was moving on. I guess Braden is dipping out from here. But in terms of that, I think if you're taking Jeff Hoffman for 3 seasons, obviously Jordan Romano was going to be a free agent at the end of the season anyway. I'm taking Jeff Hoffman a million times out of a million. So I'm going to return back to the comments here. Louis Urias used to play on the Baltimore Orioles. At this point, you have so many infielders. I'm not really high on a guy like that. Anthony Santander would cost us $500,000. Could we see that we could offer Sasaki? January 15th is when that ends. Santander probably not going to be $500,000. Like it's not even going to be relatively close to that contract. What we've seen is in terms of a 4, 5, 6 year contract and about $20 to $25 million per year. So I don't think it would be even relatively close to $500,000. That would make him the 3rd highest paid MLB player in the MLB right now. And I don't think that's necessarily a realistic scenario, especially for the Toronto Blue Jays. But you have a guy like Ross Atkins who doesn't really go and overpay for a lot of these free agents anyway.
Yeah, Carter, you know what? I'm sorry I had to pop out there. I was trying to turn the camera on. Turns out can't do that yourself unless you like exit or whatever. So here I am back in the flesh. In my car in Beausejour, Manitoba, and I am over the moon. I know I can't say that enough, but this really took me off guard. I was not expecting a reliever to be signed, and in saying that, not as high value a reliever as or bullpen pitcher as we got in Jeff Hoffman here. So I am thrilled. I'm interested to see now when these moves start to come in. Because I think these next week or so, I think we will see the Santander. We will start to see some of these players start flying off the board. So I'm interested there and interested to see how this management team goes about those and the Vladdy part of it all. I mean, we talked about the Hector Gomez tweet this morning. I'm also interested to see what happens there. So again, wait and see what happens. But overall, do we have any comments going on? Sorry, I wish I could check, but apparently, oh yes, I can. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I got them pulled up here as well. We need a power bat. Yeah, absolutely. And Roki Sasaki, as you talked about, that Santander might take away from him. That's for Roki Sasaki being an international player, doesn't really have anything to do with just who's going to offer him the most money. It's kind of up to him where he does want to go until he, again, reaches that free agency point with a guy like Shohei Ohtani, as you saw, that wasn't making a ton of money until he reached free agency. And then for the 1 year, obviously was the highest paid MLB player in all of baseball until you had the Juan Soto signing, which as we've moved farther and farther in the offseason, if the Toronto Blue Jays can sign Santander, they sign Jeff Hoffman, and they can kind of build up this team around with that money that they didn't spend on Soto. $765 million for a guy, again, one of the best offensive players in all of baseball, obviously, but a guy that can't play defense, isn't pitching like Shohei Ohtani. That's going to be a massive overpay. That's just what it's going to end up being, that, in my opinion, anyway. For a guy like Juan Soto. But just some more comments here as well. Looking good, boy, says Justin Powers. Just wanted to throw that in there. Hoffman had a deal with the Orioles before signing with the Jays. I don't got too much on that, unfortunately, here. Yeah, Jeff Hoffman. Yeah, I mean, a guy that's kind of been bounced around, obviously, throughout his career. But he's really honed it in the last 2 years. Has looked very good, especially with the Philadelphia Phillies, who had just a ton of good pitching guys, whether it was from the starting rotation, from the bullpen. They really had that looking good for a very long time. So it's nice to kind of steal a little bit from that NL and obviously revamp our bullpen as well. Who is good power, or what is good power that is still available, who they could go after? Obviously, the obvious one we've talked about on the podcast multiple times, Anthony Santander would be that guy as well. Other than that, you're really taking some risks. Like you can go on Jurickson Profar, who's coming off of a very good season, obviously. Kind of depends on the price tag there as well. I know here, I'll throw it over to you, Braden, because you're not a big Jurickson Profar guy, obviously.
Well, this question sort of relates back to a question that Justin Powers put into one of our videos, or it might have been even into the Discord channel that we have as well, which if you go to one of our videos, it'll be in the description for that. And Justin talked about the fact that how do you how do you justify if a player is going to have a good season, a bounce back season, or how do you know that a player will regress? And how do you put any stock into what players can do? And I always say you got to look back over the many seasons that they've had. If a player's had one good year, you can't base your judgment off a player on one good year or one bad year. So in my head right now, Jurickson Profar has had one good year. Besides that, the guy hasn't been extraordinary. He's been very, very less extraordinary. He's been pretty bad. So I don't like the risk that comes along with Jurickson Profar in comparison to a guy like Anthony Santander, Alex Bregman. Even though Bregman is getting older, he's showing you that he has that consistency and can do it over and over and over again. And that would just be, I guess, you're looking at a regression path for a player like Alex Bregman, whereas Jurickson Profar, you're sort of hoping he can only go up or stay at the same pace, which I just don't think is likely. In saying that, Carter, I have pizza ordered here at at Chicken Delight. I got to head up. But I appreciate everybody tuning in to the live stream. I will try to rejoin as soon as I actually get inside because I'm sweating in my car right now. So hopefully I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'll see if I can rejoin and see if Carter's still.
I'll still be live for the next little bit. So we're not ending the stream here. I'm still going to go over some comments and the power back question I'm going to go into as soon as Braden does leave here. So you got Santander, obviously. Thanks for joining, Braden. Hopefully you can make it back. But for power bats, if it's not Santander, again, Jurickson Profar, he's not a big guy on Profar. Didn't have, again, very good year last season overall. His career numbers, not the greatest. But other than that, I was looking at some of the free agent lists. There's really not that many power bats, at least proven power bats that you could go out and get here. Like some, again, Jason Hayward is one of the best ones. Randall Grichuk, a reunion here. Again, not exactly something that I would get excited about. Going through some of the free agents. John Birdie's not a power bat, obviously. Ha-Seong Kim, Jose Iglesias, but these guys are some good hitters, not exactly the power hitter that you're looking for. Kyle Farmer was a guy that I kind of wanted, but obviously he has signed as well. Like Jorge Polanco, not necessarily the power bat. Brandon Jury, again, not necessarily there. Yuri Gurriel, guy's 41 years old. Rowdy Tellez could be an interesting one, but came off of a horrific season last season there. Justin Turner, you're kind of getting limited with what the power bats are at this point in the offseason. So if you're looking for a power bat, it's really just the top of the line guys that could go and influence this team. So I'm just going to pull up the comments again, see what you guys have to say about this signing. Obviously, massive signing for the Toronto Blue Jays, really revamping that bullpen. You could have Bregman as a DH. I think if they go out and get Alex Bregman, who it is rumored that they have offered the largest amount to Alex Bregman, but it's seeming like they're going to have to overpay for a guy like that. I think it's at the end of the day, he's probably going to go to the Detroit Tigers. They're really high on a guy like Alex Bregman, and that AL Central still relatively wide open. The Guardians obviously would be the favorite for me to win that division, but the Chicago White Sox, obviously horrific. The Minnesota Twins haven't really done a whole lot. So if the Detroit Tigers want to make a move, get a guy like Bregman that could throw them, kind of catapult them into a division contender. Maybe Robert. I'm pretty sure you mean Luis Robert Jr. Possibility. Other than that, Luis Robert Jr. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Yeah, I mean, that would be a great trade. Actually, the White Sox guy that does the Locked On White Sox podcast sent us an email because they were shopping a guy like Luis Robert Jr. I just don't know how that trade ends up working. You're going to have to give up, in my opinion, Elvis Martinez. You're probably going to have to give up a guy like Adameko, maybe a Brandon Barriera, but with the injury troubles, don't know if you get that done either. And then it'd be like a top 10 to 20 prospect, maybe a Charles McAdoo's thrown in there. I think you'd probably have to throw a pitching prospect in there as well. I think if they're really shopping Luis Robert Jr. and other teams, they're making him available to other teams, the Blue Jays would get outbid very quickly. Jesse Winker was a good one, actually. I was going to bring him up, kind of lost that as I was going through it. I would not mind Jesse Winker for the Toronto Blue Jays. He played for the Seattle Mariners last year. Seattle is one of the hardest ballparks to hit in the major leagues. So everyone kind of goes there and you don't exactly get the numbers that you're expecting when guys sign for the Mariners. Just looking at Randy Arozarena, for example, didn't really have a great 2024, but didn't get much better whatsoever when he did go over there. Eric, did the Blue Jays get hacked today? I know Blue Jays today get hacked. Yeah, they did get hacked. I did see that actually as well. I didn't see exactly what they were posting. I heard it was like a crypto kind of stream. So that's, again, a little bit unfortunate. Obviously, you don't want to see that stuff happening, but I'm not even sure if they ended up getting that stream back. But yeah, just hopefully going into this, I still think we need starting pitching. Leave your comments on what you guys think, like the next signing. Obviously, whether it's Santander, I think everyone can say it's like Santander, Bregman, Alonso is what you prefer. But how about like give me like a guy that's nobody's really talking about, a guy that you would want to see with the Toronto Blue Jays on a lower value deal. Let's even say like 15 million, which is still on the higher end, I would say, but 15 million and under. None of the bigger name free agents. One of the guys that's a little bit more underrated. I think right now, when you're looking at the Toronto Blue Jays, like you have Alejandro Kirk as your catcher. Other than that, like you're kind of relying on Tyler Hyman. I wouldn't mind a backup catcher signing, but again, not a prominent need for the Toronto Blue Jays necessarily. But I guess going back to the Jeff Hoffman stuff, just looking at the term, looking at the years, I don't think you can hate on this whatsoever. And again, in a nutshell, in a vacuum, does this change the Toronto Blue Jays? Does this make them AL East favorites? Absolutely not. When you're looking at what the New York Yankees did, what the Baltimore Orioles already are right now, they got Tyler O'Neill, a couple other guys as well. Charlie Morton, I think, will be pretty good for them as well. Then the Red Sox, looking like they learned from the Mookie Betts sweepstakes, also building as well. But I think as for right now, that probably means the bullpen is finished with. I don't think they're going to be adding too much to the bullpen. It would really only be, like I said before at the start of this live stream, if you guys were here, would be a lower tier signing, would be one of those guys you're probably taking a chance on, hopefully getting them to bounce back in the 2025 season, or even a guy like what we kind of saw with Eduardo Escobar last season, Daniel Vogelbach, a signing with a minor league signing with an invite into spring training, and kind of let them show out if they want to be on the Toronto Blue Jays for the 2025 season. We need starting pitching. We lose Bassett this year and lose Gosman the next run. Not sure about Barrios. Barrios has an option to leave the team at the end of 2026, but I believe he's under contract until 2028. So obviously it depends where the Toronto Blue Jays are at that point. But yeah, the pitching could be very volatile as we kind of get down the stretch, especially if the Toronto Blue Jays don't end up being a contender, or at least being a team that's sniffing the playoffs in 2025. Vlad is hitting 823 at the dome in his career. I mean, yeah, that's not exactly what you want. You want him to hit 1,000. Why can't Vladdy hit 1,000 and with the Mariners or at the Mariners Stadium? Juan Moncada, I don't love that. I've seen them linked to him. I don't love him as a third baseman. I think he had like a 200 average with like an OPS of 600. Not exactly what we're looking for in terms of the Toronto Blue Jays. I'd rather just roll out Ernie Clement from what he did last season. Obviously, they inked him to an arbitration deal of just under $2 million. Guy that hit 260, 265, kind of was just another version of IKF. I think this guy is going to be a very good bench bat, and as it looks right now, might actually be the starting third baseman. And that's going to be an interesting thing to see as well with how they kind of plan out this infield, where you have Bo Bichette at shortstop, obviously. Andres Manis, I think, is kind of a lock at second base. Then you have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at first base, but you do want to rotate Will Wagner in there. You do probably want to get Elvis Martinez some reps as well. Ernie Clement, probably the favorite, especially as good as he is defensively. So there is some moving around and adjustments they could make. This team doesn't really have a DH right now. They don't really have a right fielder, especially with Dalton Varsho being out for at least the first month of the season. I expect either George Springer or Joey Loperfido to move to that center field position. It kind of depends, again, on how Joey Loperfido does the spring training. It depends also how they view Joey Loperfido with his minimal experience in the major leagues. Didn't go exactly well in the majors for Loperfido, but he looked unbelievable in AAA. So maybe with another year of experience, with a good spring training, maybe he does get thrown in there as well. I don't love the catcher situation. Might not be. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Pavel Bure, what do you think of Carter's hat? Oh man, yeah. I gotta show my love to the Canucks. I think they're actually losing right now, which is kind of the typical way that they've been going. But the only thing for this bullpen, the only issue for me that I have right now is when you're looking at left-handed pitchers, and your top guy right now is Brandon Little. You did sign Josh Walker, but how much can you rely on Josh Walker? But at the end of the day, if you have dogs in the bullpen, you have dogs in the bullpen. They're going to be able to match up against anyone, but obviously you would prefer if you could get some righty-righty matchups and some lefty-lefty matchups. If it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I'd rather have Jeff Hoffman than going to get this middle tier left-handed pitcher from the bullpen that probably wouldn't be very good for the Toronto Blue Jays. But if you guys have any more questions, again, throw them in the comment section. I'll probably be live for another 5 or 10 minutes because it's slowing down a little bit here, and I've kind of talked about the main points I wanted to make. Overall, Jeff Hoffman, great signing. It was unbelievable last year for the Philadelphia Phillies. Could be an all-star once again for the Toronto Blue Jays. When you look at the bullpen last year, one of the worst bullpens in all of baseball. You look at all the stats correlating that. bottom three, not what you want whatsoever. Kind of got overlooked a little bit, especially at the start of the season. Oh, okay, I thought I got scared there. I said Orioles almost landed Hoffman. I thought for some reason they retracted that contract. But yeah, Orioles almost landed Hoffman. Apparently offered him more money from what it looks like from this article. I'm going to kind of go into this actually and see what's going on here. Oh, where'd that article go? It popped up on my feed and then all of a sudden it's gone. Let's try to look it up here. Jeff Hoffman, Orioles. Pitcher failed Orioles physical before taking, obviously, the Jays contract. Interesting. The Orioles had agreed on terms, 3-year, $40 million contract earlier this week, but Jeff Hoffman failed the physical. I guess we can go into this. Does not worry me whatsoever. I wonder what they mean by failing the physical. Obviously, like, it's mostly scanning for injuries. Does that mean he might have some elbow issues, might have some shoulder issues? I think the Toronto Blue Jays probably would have done their due diligence on a guy like Jeff Hoffman if they were going to pay a guy like a reliever $33 million in the market. Obviously, $11 million per year for our relief pitcher is a little bit on the higher side, but for a guy like Jeff Hoffman, who has been an all-star the last couple seasons, and just how good he has been for the Philadelphia Phillies, I don't think it's necessarily something that I'm too worried about for the Toronto Blue Jays, especially with how their bullpen was looking the last couple seasons. Is Hoffman the piece that pushes the Jays to a contender? Maybe a contender for a playoff spot, but I definitely wouldn't say a contender for the AL East. Wouldn't necessarily have the Jays going in a deep playoff run right now if they're not going to go out and get that power bat. They have, again, been linked to Bregman. They've been linked to Pete Alonso. They've been linked to a ton of guys. But as we've seen this whole offseason, kind of the podium Toronto Blue Jays, they do get it done with a guy like Jeff Hoffman. But as we kind of just saw right there, the Orioles did have a higher offer in. It seemed like that he would prefer to go to the Orioles, but did fail the physical. I just want to say, I guess, thank you, Baltimore, for giving us Jeff Hoffman. Hopefully that does not come back to bite us in the butt as well. Miller wants to go to the Rangers, assuming they talk about Mason Miller. That's a huge price tag. Mason Miller, one of the most electric closing pitchers in all of baseball. Some of the at-bats that the Toronto Blue Jays even took against Mason Miller, just not even competitive at-bats whatsoever. So if you can get a guy like that, obviously it could be a massive upgrade for either the back end of the bullpen. I've heard some rumors as well that he might even turn into a starting pitcher. Don't love that as much. Obviously, you're going to have to stretch him out. Eric Shepard said, and he wanted to be a starter. Guys rarely fail physicals. Yeah, that's why it's a little interesting from that rumor that came out. It seems like not even a rumor. It seems like it is confirmed because I got it from the score here. But it's kind of, absolutely wild that did fail that physical. It seems like I want some more light to be shed on that before I kind of have a take here. And we'll probably get that as these takes start coming out. These insiders kind of shed some light on this situation. But yeah, MLB trade rumors also same thing. Said flagged for the physical. Pretty much, yeah. I got a ton here that obviously say that he was flagged for this physical. But do you guys have any more questions, any more comments to kind of end this off, this live stream off for a huge signing in Jeff Hoffman? If we're lucky, maybe we get Anthony Santander signing the next 24 hours, like one of you guys said in the comment section. But yeah, you look at the top end, you look at honestly the bullpen in general, just kind of off the top of my head, firing through it. I'd have Jeff Hoffman as the closer. Then you have Yimi Garcia as your setup, Chad Green, and you got Eric Swanson in there, Nick Sandlin, Brendan Little. I guess Ryan Burr would be another guy, and then Josh Walker, Zach Pop, Tommy Nance maybe in there as well. Tommy Nance probably starting in AAA. But you do have a little bit of depth here now. You do have some options. And that's why we really wanted that high leverage reliever in Jeff Hoffman, because at least it seems like Ross Atkins is at least trying to sign some players, is at least trying to make this team a competitive team in 2025. Last month, before even after the Andres Gimenez signing, to say yesterday that this team was not looking like it was going to compete whatsoever, especially with juggernauts in this division, like the Orioles, the Red Sox, probably going to be a very good team, and the New York Yankees obviously making a ton of moves as well. So the only thing I'll end this off with saying this, kind of going over the Ariel Rodriguez stuff again. Jeff Hoffman, there has been rumors that he wants to be a starting pitcher. We have a feeling like Eric Shepard said in the comment section that it had like that physical failing had something to do with him being a starting pitcher. Maybe not exactly what they were looking for. Look at the Baltimore Orioles again. They did sign Charlie Morton, but they definitely can still use some help in that starting rotation. So with right now, the way I would see it is I don't see a reason why you throw Yariel Rodriguez in the bullpen after Jeff Hoffman the last 2 seasons being one of the best relievers in all baseball, probably a top 15 guy. I would say here with Yariel, you saw some flashes. You got to have him stretched out a little bit as well. Doesn't really make sense to me right now that you would move Yariel Rodriguez to the bullpen and have Jeff Hoffman as your starting pitcher. But I'm going to end it here. Just want to say thank you guys for watching. All the support in this live stream, the comments, everything about Jeff Hoffman has been appreciated. We will be going live once again if we do get an Anthony Santander and Alex Bregman, Pete Alonso, any major signing. I'm not going to go live, unfortunately, if it's like a Josh Walker type of signing, if it's an Eduardo Escobar signing from last season. Got to be something that moves the needle at least a little bit for this Toronto Blue Jays team. But I'm going to end it here. Thank you guys for all joining on this Friday night, and we will talk to you guys hopefully before the weekend is even over with another free agent signing.